everybody. Welcome to The Right Room. My name is Jane Parmel,
And I'm Celeste Camps.
and we are going to do the podcast today on risk. Our podcast focus today is on risk.
Knowing you need to take that risk.
I don't want to take
And
the risk.
but you know that many times it's important that you do. Even as uncomfortable as it seems, you have to decide, do I stay where I am, where I know it's not working out, or do I take that risk and have something better? And that is always that issue. I know it was for me years ago when I left a very good paying job and knew that if I stayed with it, I was just going to get more and more miserable. The job took my whole life. And I thought at this point, if I don't jump ship and decide that instead of expending all of this energy making somebody else rich, I could probably put all of that energy into myself and have my own business. And as scary as it was, the decision really was the best one I ever made. And Jane, I am sure that you have found that as well.
I don't consider myself a daredevil. I actually consider myself adverse, because I literally I had a very phobic mother. So she put that fear of everything in me. And to go out on a limb has always been terrifying. I usually can do it, but I usually have something in front of me, a partner in business, a musical instrument when I was performing. So it was always a little bit of, a little bit of a buffer. But now that, even like this podcast, this vodcast, the risk behind it is, is it going to work? Is it not going to work? Is my guest going to show up? Um, the tension that builds in you, um, it almost becomes debilitating to some people. And you know, how do you deal with that? How do
Well,
you?
luckily, we have somebody today that can address all of that. And she is here today to help us walk us through this. Please welcome Shane Kulman.
Hey, Shane, how are you?
I'm so good. So happy to be here.
We're happy to have you.
Good to
And
have.
we know that you do actually many things, and we asked you to pare it down to just one topic. And I like the topic that you picked, which is making that big decision even when you're unsure of yourself. So walk us through it.
Yeah. Well, I want to say as entrepreneurs, we make bets. Like we are in a life that's like a casino, and it's really scary because essentially we're saying, I'm so great that I don't need a boss to tell me what to do, that I'm going to wake up on time, I'm going to take a shower, I'm going to eat my breakfast, and there's actually nowhere to rush to. And that is really, at the core, we've all been raised in school where it's like, do this, come here, sit down, stand up. And anything outside of that, you get in trouble for. So I was a preschool teacher and a therapist for little kids, and I saw the training, happen. And so you talked about your mom, like I just didn't like authority. I just was like, I can do it better and different and more efficient, even in kindergarten. There's so many examples that just rush to my mind. And getting in trouble, I was like used to it already. So I think that gave me the permission to be like, I want to do what I want to do. Up until I was about 12, I reached puberty, and then I was like, I just want to fit in. I just want to belong. And so as an adult, it is a slippery slope, but I'm self-interested, I'm obsessed with personal development. And the scariest, most efficient place to grow and learn and make money is by being witnessed by strangers, doing your thing, making your offers, putting yourself out there because they don't know you're a nice person or you're kind. And they have their stories like, oh, you're a hustler, you want to make money. Like, and that stuff all comes up. And so becoming an entrepreneur, it wasn't like I became an entrepreneur, I just was one. Um, and taking risk is a part of that. And I always think about, I'm a New Yorker, and I think about the guys that own, or the women, whoever, that own the bodegas or the corner stores. Like, I wonder if they think about risk, or they're like, no, it's busy. It's a bus stop. We're going to be, it's guaranteed. And so, taking a risk doesn't feel fun. I want everyone to know, like, even if we're all smiling and we look nice for the camera, there's days where it's like, I'm not showering. I didn't eat. It's 3 o'clock. Where's the next money coming from? And that's kind of the excitement, the dopamine of like, where's it going to come from? What's happening next? And where our coping mechanisms come in, like there's a lot of psychology around taking risk. And at the end of the day, if someone's going to watch up until right now, I want them to know that sometimes you take the risk and the joy or the pleasure come afterwards. So it's not like, oh, I want to have fun. I want to be successful like these other people. You might feel horrible, terrible. You might eat 2 pies of pizza and take the risk. And then something happens and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm real. People believe in me. I just had a client. She calls herself Gen 3.0. She's been a mother of 2 teenagers. She was a private investigator. She worked for an assemblywoman. And now she's a postpartum doula. That's what she did while she was working with me. She got trained, and she was, she'll love me anyway. She was really undercharging. And she's been a mother for 20 years and a caregiver and a natural doula as far as I'm concerned. She's like, "I'm just starting," and her, yeah, she was undercharging. And now she's raised her prices. She's taking it little bits at a time. Her prices are good. She has a wait list. She has people showing up. And she just posted this thing like, I'm doing it. It's my actual business. It's thriving. I have money coming. People are calling. I'm having meetings. And that joy of a little kid who's like, I won the game, is really important to share.
So
So I want to go
she
ahead.
can move forward on that. I'm what I'm hearing when you're saying it is, yes, there's risk. Of course, there's risk, there's reward. Sometimes there's a detriment to your, a setback or whatever that comes with it, and that otherwise it wouldn't be risky. But what I hear in what you're saying is, um, people, especially as an entrepreneur, that risk embodies things like, where does the next dollar come from? Am I going to have clients? I am a profit acceleration strategist. So to hear you say your client was afraid to charge more, I always laugh, because that's usually exactly what you said is usually what happens. They'll push back with a coach or a consultant and say, I can't charge anymore. Are you kidding? I'll put myself out of business. And then they start to,
Yeah.
and two things happen. They actually make more money, and then the fear of the risk starts to fall away. That being said, do you have any processes or systems that you work through with your clients to really help them put that risk at bay, like hold it at bay, not to let the fear overwhelm them?
Yes. And the name of my method is the unconventional icon. And here's why: self expression is the way in and the way out of fear. And so I suggest to my clients, go find an open mic, go get on the karaoke mic, go do a poetry reading. I mean, you could do it all online, but it's really interesting. It's interesting. I want to say that, to put your body through that process. And because the part of the brain that's like, I'm going to die, actually takes over, right? That reptilian part that's like, I'm going to die. And then you don't die. And then you're like, well, if I could do that, I could do anything. I just had another client. I was like, get to karaoke. She was like, I don't feel well, really in a place. She was really fighting for her comfort. I know it very well. She went to karaoke. They didn't start on time, blah, blah, blah. She ended up singing. She ended up, the whole audience, she's saying, I Want It Now from Willy Wonka. Like, everybody was like, oh my goodness, we never hear that song. It was totally lit everyone up. A week later, She got invited to do a live DJ event, which is something she always wanted to do, and she'd been doing it online because of the pandemic.
That's
So
awesome.
it's like once you do one thing out of your comfort zone, it's like the actual body, the emotional body is like, okay, I'm not going to die. And it's a literal, it's kind of logical. And then if you do it once, then more things happen. So sometimes sometimes all the time, you have to go through the back end and give yourself an experience that has lower stakes. If your business, if you're in a family, you have to pay your mortgage, that's super high stakes. Of course you're afraid. Let me get a job, let me sell my stuff, but at the same time those things are not bad, integrating job, selling stuff, but you just have to work around so that you freak yourself out enough that you're like, well, that could have been horrible, but it wasn't. So now I'll so the unconventionality is in self-expression and the arts.
Well, what happens if you have a client
Mhm.
that really is stuck? I mean, that the idea of karaoke, nope, not doing it. Well, what about take an improv class? Nope, not doing it. Are there people that you find that it's not that they don't want
Yeah.
to experience it, but the fear is paralyzing? Is there something that you're able to do to help them work through that?
Yes, I so love this as a follow-up question. So I'm an actor, and you're right. Like some people are just like, absolutely not. So another part, there's three parts of my method, and the second part is really being with those parts. Like you said, frozen. Okay, I get frozen. I sit on the couch and I'm with my phone. I'm like, what am I doing? So we kind of give that part a role or a character, and we befriend it. And there's no pushing. It's just real curiosity, deep curiosity of like, wow, what's it like to feel frozen? And a lot of times, I'll have them close their eyes and take them on a journey, and a character shows up. It's real. Sometimes it's an animal, or sometimes it's a feeling, and we can relate it to a character. And sometimes people say, "Oh, it was my third grade teacher," and people emerge from the past that literally had an impact on our blueprint of how we cope with intensity. One of my famous stories that I talk about is the birthday song, right? Everybody sings happy birthday, and you're like, oh my God, I don't know what to do with myself. I recorded my friend's child, and she was having fun. She's 2. She was turning 2. Oh, she was turning 3. And her shoulders went forward and she put her head down. Like all of a sudden, all these adults had their phones up and they were singing loud because they loved her. But she was like, ooh, what is going on? No words, just her body. And a lot of us, right there, that was a snapshot in her body of what's it like to get attention. And she was totally shrinking. So we have to have compassion for these parts and not push through like this. I'll call it bro type marketing. That's like big mission, go do it. It's actually re-traumatizing. So if you don't want to get to the bottom of it. You just want to look at it as if it was a movie or a play and be like, wow, that's so interesting. And then at the end, after the journey, it's like you check in with that part again, and that part's like taking a nap. And you're like, okay, I can go do my life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm fascinated with this now. Do you think that again, I'm going to go back to my mom. Phobias, fears, completely. A phobia being an irrational fear. The walls don't close in. Those kind of things. Stage fright. I mean, the best thing, the closest thing that I can tell you that I've ever experienced has been stage fright.
Yeah.
Um, but I noticed that as I've gotten older, um, the concept of pushing myself out of my comfort zone um, is something, like again, being a New Yorker, I say, oh, come on, all this, BS of your mind and your body and all of this. Um, I kind of poo poo it. And then I started to really listen to it. And I guess my thing is, does there come a point where it becomes um, easier once you're out of your comfort zone? Is it a continual if you're out of it, if you all of a sudden are comfortable, are you
Yeah.
looking for another? challenge, is it easier to find another challenge to push you? Is it I guess what I'm trying to say is when you become comfortable, it's time to get uncomfortable again, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise, there's no growth.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Ho
love it. Wait, did you want to say something
No, I
else?
was gonna say, so how would you, um, like, I'm almost thinking that your work is finite. It's because the way it sounds like, okay, well, I'm nervous about this, and I don't wanna do that, and I don't like the risk, but Shane's gonna work with me, and once it's gone, it's gone. And my point is it really should be like this continuing, long drawn out, let's get the next challenge and the next challenge. Do you work with with your clients like that? Do you push that way of thinking?
Yeah. I almost thought you were going to say edge. It is edge pushing.
Right.
Um, I created this business for myself because I can be really stuck. And so, who am I to help people if I don't keep pushing myself? And so, it's this constant, revolving elevator of like, what's next for me inspires my clients. And then they inspire me, and it keeps on going. And the stakes get higher. So, self-expression, no problem. I love it. I still get some nerves, but I use it as energy. Recently, I started going dipping in the ocean during this winter. That is not only out of my comfort zone, but I don't like physical challenges. I don't do roller coasters. I don't ice skate. I'm like comfort queen. Every room, I live in a small house, has a couch in it. Like, I really like my comfort. And I went to I'm on the board of Rockaway Creates, and this guy shows up and he starts giving me my own rap about going in the ocean. And I was like, yeah, okay, buddy, it's not for me. I'm delicate, all this stuff. And I was like, okay, this is an opportunity. He's giving me my own, if you do it, you never know what else could happen in your life. And I'm like rolling my eyes. And I got to embody what it might be like for a really shy person to meet me, and I started doing it. And so that is like my latest example of going completely out of my comfort zone. Once I go on a stage, I kill it every single time. Like, even if I think I'm not, people don't remember, and then they say I did great. And so for me, going out of my comfort zone is like budgeting my money, things that are just very left brained or physically uncomfortable. I'm doing a 5K walk, a marathon, something. I'm like, ugh, why did I sign up for? But it's like you have to know what the next stakes are. And a lot of times, as a mentor and a coach, I'm the person people are like, ugh, leave me alone, But they pay because they want to get out of their little bubble of comfort.
They need that
Um,
push. They need that push.
yeah,
Right. So when you are doing this, now I would imagine that your customers, your clients, they are varied. They come from different backgrounds, different cultures, different mindsets. So I am thinking that it you are having to pretty much customize these processes, but is that something that you present to them? Is it something that after speaking with them and giving an assessment that you put together a plan of action? Or is there something that is a checklist and it's universal and it's we're going 1 through 10?
I love that question too. So I don't love structure, but I love systems because to me, systems are a placement of what can happen and the chaos can happen in between. So my method is the unconventional icon. There's three stages. The first one is open the golden door. And the second is awkward alchemy, which I shared about with the characters and the frozen pieces. And the third is strut the stage. They can happen in any order. You can go back to them because what I really want, that I really want more in the coaching industry is sustainability, like having a coach that you're, codependent with and you can't grow if you're not working with them. There's so much money being, I'll say, wasted on stuff like that. And so these three stages, when I ask my clients that are in my group program, what stage are you at? They now know. And if they know the stage they're in, they know the process. And the first stage is about rambling, just rambling like a child. And the second stage is called awkward alchemy. And it's really changing around any feelings that are keeping oneself stuck. And strut the stage is when you're going outward. So the first two stages are really in hiding. And a lot of my clients are like in hiding in some way because they care so much that they're fragile. You know, we're all fragile. It's like the loudest, I won't say any names, but the loudest people that are confident and boasting their BS, they're not caring. They've sort of desensitized. And so the people I work with are pretty sensitive. Um, and they care so much that if somebody's like, this is we don't know what you're talking about. Oh, now you're trying something new, that they're going to be devastated. So having these three stages gives them somewhere to be devastated and not be wrong about it. Oh, good. I'm glad I'm bringing this up. But they're right in their devastation and they know what to do with it so it doesn't last 20 years, or they don't give up, or they don't end up giving their stuff away for free, stuff like that. Or they have like a beta program, like the things that entrepreneurs do that make them like, I know I'm not that good, but if you work with me, I'll do all the free things. And then it just proves to them they couldn't do it to begin with, and then they quit, and then they think that entrepreneur is just scary big monster.
And that makes sense. And that also I mean, you must then come up with circumstances where somebody is dead set that this is their job, this is their new business, this is their big idea, and they're going to plow through. And yet, that setback after setback after setback, do you at some point either tell them maybe it's a dead end, or is there something that they're not learning, that there's another path that they're not seeing? I mean, how does that work out? Because I can't tell you how many stories I've heard of people just, okay, I'm giving up. I can't
Mhm.
make this work. And then the very next day, it's like a door opened up and they're on a whole new path that they wish they had figured out maybe some time ago, but maybe it just the timing wasn't there or their intention was misguided. Have you come across that kind of circumstance and be able to help that person go, okay, maybe not here, but let's try this path?
Yeah, it's like you can go kicking and screaming, or you can go with a little bit of curiosity. And there are people who really want to fight for their limitations. And then it would be like my fault, let's say. That hasn't happened in a really long time. But I'm really not here to push an agenda. Sometimes I do get attached to people's success because I'm like, oh, it's so right. I have a client. We're working together about 5 or 6 years. She's done so many like shots on goal, I call them. She finally said something. She's like, I don't want to work with adults. I'm so hard on myself. I feel like they're all judging me. She's a highly intelligent administrator in education. So now she's changed it around and she's helping. They're like graduate speech therapists. So they're younger. Maybe they're 21, right out of college. She already has 15 signups from a post she posted 2 weeks ago. She's not doing her marketing every day. She's been working at a job she kind of doesn't want to be at anymore. It's like an agency type thing. She makes a lot of money, so she has her lifestyle, but she's miserable. There's something innate in us that doesn't let us give up. And if the person is like, I'm done, then I'm like, you know what? Great. Let's put this on hold, come back. I mean, that's never happened. But people are in charge of their own lives. Like I had a grumpy client. She was like, I know what to do. I'm just not doing it for a lot of weeks in a row. So, my job as a mentor is like know when to push and know when to like get curious. Um, She ended up going to yoga. She's not living in a place she likes. She hates it. She went to a yoga class. The owner happens to be from New York. And now she has a relationship. Now she's moving her body. So Sometimes, and I just got this feedback, it's not about working on your business. Just like put that aside, go to the back end, get in nature, touch the earth, go hold a baby at the hospital, like change the game in your head. Because when we get to that white knuckling place, it's like if you hold tight, you get pins and needles. There's no flow, there's no oxygen, there's no place to receive. And so this is where I'm really into the divine feminine principles of life, which is relationships and nature. I love what I'm feeling from you, Jane. And when you're in that place, like nature's perfect. I have these beautiful flowers. If I wasn't situated, they're perfect. And so if we start to think of ourselves as perfect and whole and right, we can't mess up. And if we get so angry, then you can dance it out or like don't take a shower for a week. Let's see what happens. Like there's some rooms that you can go throw pots and pans. You could take I have all my clients get a wiffle ball bat and like beat the bed once in a while. You have energy in your body and if it's not being expressed, sickness happens, frustration, stuckness. But my first, stage of rambling, it's like just ramble that stuff out, get it out of your head, and then see what's next. So there's always a way. I do lean a lot on like movement and body because if you're just living your life from your head, your mind is not your friend. You can prove whatever case study you could prove you're garbage or you could prove you're amazing in the same 10 minutes.
You know what's funny? As you're talking, I'm listening and I'm saying to myself, I know somebody. I know somebody that could fit into every box that you're describing. Again, going back to what I do is when I know Shane through Rockaway Creates, and actually I know Shane further back than that was Women's Speakers Association, where I met Celeste as well. So thanks to them. But to be honest with you, one of the things that I find with my clients, again, is it's all mindset. Like you said, um, one of the courses that I've taken is something called Receiving Your Riches.
Mm.
And it's based on the principle of if you have more, you can do more. Everybody's talking about being socially responsible and being benevolent and being empathetic, which is all what you just said now. Your clients, your clients sounds like they tend to be more empathetic and they take things to heart and they get hurt and they want more out of the people they deal with. It's good to know that you can do more with more. And just like you said, I think bringing together everything that you said, well, all the examples that you used, it's a positive mindset. If you're coming in from a negative, you're not going to get more. You're going to probably get less. But if you are open to it and you can receive riches, and riches being anything, everybody always talks about money. I know as an entrepreneur, listen, sometimes you have the money, sometimes you don't. But the wealth of what you learn, the wealth of what you know, like I'm sitting here listening to this and I'm going, wow, I never thought of it that way. And it's just a constant learning, it's a constant taking in of information. It's how you can use it, who we can direct to you or anyone else that has these fantastic programs and mindsets that can really change the game for you personally as well as in business. I think it's just really awesome and really clear cut the way you said it. That's really good.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the way that you have, like you said, you have a process to bring them through. And it's interesting too, because you are also learning a lot. Because the more you help people, the more it really does help you. And I think that's where a lot of people, I think when they feel stuck, I tell them, go help somebody.
Mhm.
Yeah, get out of your head, go help somebody. And I like that that is something that you are also letting people understand that that is what we're all supposed to be doing anyway. We're all supposed to be here helping and learning. And the only way we could do that is by connecting. And I
Which
think
brings
that's a
us
great way to, yes, bring
full circle.
everything full circle in terms of knowing that yes, you're taking a risk, but we're here for you to take that risk. And I think that's something that Jane and I were hoping to do with the Right Room is to bring a community together that realizes that we are going to share tips, tricks, and techniques because it also reinforces what we are trying to do. The more we can help, the more we learn, and the more we understand the value in all of that.
Yeah. You just said something. I hope I don't let it slip out of my mind. Oh, we're built certain ways to not do things alone, where it literally is parts of our brain that are like, this is dangerous, don't do it. And when you have someone in front of you that's like, oh, I just did that, I can hold your hand, it really gives us more softness to be willing, and it's that willingness that is why we need each other. And so I hear so many people who are stuck and they're like, I can't afford a mentor right now. And it's like, you can't afford to not have a mentor right now. There's everything, we're not creating anything brand new here. There's tons of free stuff, there's tons of self study programs. I have an obscene amount of books. But there's nothing more magical than getting on when you have full attention. And when you have a friend, they have their own agenda of what they want to talk about. But when you have full attention from someone who's neutral and just wants the best for you, it's absolutely priceless. I've spent over 200K on my self development and I plan on spending more. And I started out like making a $25 deposit to my first coach. I had $200 to my name. There's a risk. But I was like, well, what am I going to get? A job? And I'm unemployable. I am not working for anybody. So it's just like knowing that you get, and this is more woo woo, but you get, fed back when you take risks. The universe sees like, oh well, it's not even like gray, it's black and white. Oh, that's a risk. Here's more. Like my karaoke client who then got a live DJ event. That was not in her field of like she wanted it 3 years ago. It wasn't like she was working towards it. Of course she's freaking out about it. She's not like, "Oh cool, my life is now amazing." But at least she has an opportunity. She might go through the same process of not wanting to leave the house and blah blah blah, but she's still going to go and maybe that's who she is, right? Like, look at some of our comedians. Their whole shtick is about complaining. You know, that's what they do. It's human. Yeah,
Well, like
Mhm.
I got it. I just from what you said, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? All the way
yeah,
around. So
totally. Totally.
definitely. Okay. Where are we going, Celeste?
Well, I think that you actually opened the door about how you started. So here you are, $200 to your name. You're risking $25. And is that something you'd like to share with us about? It sounds like, yeah, you stepped into your own risk taking.
Yeah, well, right before then, I was a therapist for children with autism, and I was doing a whole bunch of learning. So my path of learning has been children with autism. I used to work in gentlemen's clubs, so that was a whole bunch of learning. And then I like how I titled that. And um, then I worked with children in prison, like teenagers in prison, incarcerated youth. And I always use some form of connection to who was in front of me and exactly where they were at. So that's the past. Then I met my improv acting teacher who it was based on saying no and it saved my life. I was negative Nelly, so judgmental. I was self-loathing. You wouldn't have reckoned only my teacher could talk about how triggerable I was and how I just didn't even know the word embodiment, let alone experiencing it. I was just a really angry, sad, I just wanted to belong. I was giving advice. I was angry and it was seeping out all over the place. And I went to this improv work and I dropped my social life for 2 years. I only went to this class. No dates, no friends. And I had a large group of like party friends and all that and I didn't go. I stopped. And I invited everyone to this class because I was like a bully about it. Um, and I continued for the next 8 years, so for 10 years, but the first 2, I did nothing else. And I learned these methods that I was working with children at the time and working with their parents. I'm like, they need to know this because it was play. It was being real in imaginary circumstances with a with intensity of no. And so what that gave me was permission to have my feelings. And that took me for a ride. And I needed this work to get out there, and I knew I needed a coach. There was somebody in class that was like, when you don't know what to do, she gives you a piece of paper, she gives you a script. And I was like, I need cheat sheets. I don't know what I'm doing. And I already had a business card. Like, so to me, it wasn't, I didn't even think about the risk. I was just like, I need help. I don't know what to do. I'm not someone, or I wasn't someone who asked for help, but if I had to pay for it and it's a teacher, I was like, okay, that makes sense. I wasn't asking for personal free help. Um, and that changed my life. It saved my life. And I used it with everyone. I used it with the 4-year-old who was nonverbal. I used it with a mother. And a lot of it's based on mirroring the neurons and meeting the person of where they're at. And I grew up with teachers that were like, I'm better than you. I'm going to, very authoritarian, very mean. I was always outside in the hallway because I was in trouble for talking, by the way. So it's like what I do now is talk. Like, this is where my money comes from. And they were telling me to shut up. Whatever. That's a different time, a different place. But I've always taken those risks. And that, from the improv, I was like, everyone needs to learn this. And if they're not coming here, I'm going to go out in the world. And my teachers invested in me so much. Like, they really showed me unconditional love. It was more than an acting class, and it was the same 8 to 10 people every week for 2 years. So now I experienced real community. And I couldn't prove that I was a piece of garbage because these people had seen my heart and my soul. And to everyone else, I would fight for my limitations. So I got on the fast track of really, all the work that I'm here to do today. And they were so smart, and they knew they were special people to invest in me because I'm like, I'm moving this forward tomorrow. I got to learn this.
So let me
I know.
let me ask you a question, Shane. You said something. You touched on something that even on your worst day, these people wouldn't let you fall into the worst of what you could be. So the importance of community. I mean, it's huge, right?
Valuable. We were doing a scene, and it was something about a donut shop. And, weight is something funny for me. And I thought they all got together, and I thought this was my mind that they were going to have an intervention that I should be thinner. It was crazy. It was so real for me. I ran to the bathroom. I was like, it was like somebody else put a pillow in. They wanted like playing with costumes. And I thought, like, they're really just making fun of me. It was so twisted, saying it, but I literally ran to the so they saw the worst of my moments that I would never show anybody. And they still loved me, and we took time to digest it and open it up. And I'd never been loved like that before. I would never even show up to share that stuff. I remember once I went on a very depressed day, and I just sat quietly. I wasn't the Shane show, like people think. And for me to leave the house on a day like that, to be seen by strangers, when I say strangers, I mean people outside myself, it was the worst thing and the best thing I could have done for myself. It was like exposing all that I felt, my ugly, dark parts. And my teacher so brilliantly gave me a character of being a monster. So I got to embody the feelings. And then I was like, oh, and then I literally looked different. Like, my eyeballs looked brighter. We all looked younger. Our cheeks were flushed, which they're probably right now. Like, when we're alive in that moment, you said something earlier when it's like, it's that moment of like, oh, I'm terrified. I'm doing it anyway. There's dopamine like floods our system, and all the healthy chemicals that rejuvenate the cells of our body start to fire, and we look younger. It's science. It's the kind of science class I like.
Yeah, definitely. Like it's like
Yeah.
worry wart. That's what you become. You become, I guess, you embody, the stress. You take on all of that, that physicality of
Yes.
the risk, not leaning into the risk and learning how to deal with it, just really wears down on you. But this is, I mean, to me, this is excellent, advice, programming. Um, I like the way you look at the way things were, like the way things, like listening to you talk. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I had those days where everything was anger because who was judging, or who I thought was judging. um, it does take a toll on you, and this is just really amazing to hear that. I'm listening to it now and I'm going, there was somebody else that felt that way. That's exactly why we're doing this. We want to make sure that there are people, this stuff reaches people that may not even want to admit it to themselves, but now
100%.
to hear it, and now, like listening to you, I'm sitting there going, "Yeah, that was me. I wouldn't, I'm angry and concerned and on a timeline and on a deadline and what's this one gonna think and what's that one gonna think?" And then you get to a point where it's just overwhelming, and you either reach out to somebody and you have great community around you, like you said, or, the alternative is not a good one. And I think that's the best message that you bring. The alternative is not a good one. You have to make those changes, take those steps to be in a different place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially these days, because I know that that lockdown did a number on everybody, whether we understand it or not. But the disconnect is there, and a lot of people are complaining about it. People that I speak to, people that I read about, the subject matter is I can't get anybody on the phone. I can't get anybody to answer an email. I have people calling, but they don't tell me why they're calling. They won't leave a voicemail, or I call them back. They don't pick up. And we have all this communication, and people are feeling still that disconnect. And I think until we start to come together in groups like that, and I love improv too. I did it as well, and it is a great community, but there's so many different communities out there, whether it's dancing or poetry or like you said, music, something in the arts, something that is not business related. I'm not talking network events. I'm talking about an actual group that you attend because it is fun, it is enlightening, and it is an opportunity for you to connect with people and be yourself. I think that we need that more than ever. And I think the idea of finding those communities is very important because things are opening up. You do not need to sit in the comfort of your home, as comfortable as it is, with a couch in every room. We do have to walk outside and sit on somebody else's couch and be
Yes.
with them and have that conversation of how are you today? Not just I'm fine. No, how are you today? And we take the time to listen because you're right. A mentor, a therapist, a coach, whatever it is you need to be heard, to understand what you need to do to move forward is invaluable. And Shane, I think that your program is amazing. And I'm so glad that we have the chance to introduce you to hopefully a bigger audience and have an opportunity. We were going to make sure everybody will have your information to to be able to contact you. Is there anything else that you would like to add? Anything else? Is there a good way for them to reach out to you?
Since I'm a big advocate of play, I would say like go to your Google bar and type in Shane or Enchantress Shane and see what comes up and click something. Like I'm all over the place. I've written some books, there's a bunch of articles, I'm all over YouTube, and because I really trust that whatever the person finds will be just right for them. Um yeah, so play with that. Sometimes I do that because I need my own support. And so, yeah, just typing in my name and seeing what comes up. And of course, you can always find me on social media all over the place. But yeah, make it a game. Have
or in the water in Rockaway because she's
or in
doing
the water.
that
Yes,
morning dipping that you'll never catch me dead at.
Yeah, yeah,
sounds
I'm
like
not doing
me.
either.
I don't know. I mean,
I'm too cold all the time. I'll meet you
to-
in July. That'll be good.
Yeah.
totally understand. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that really covers everything. If there's anything else that you can think of, Shane, that you want to add,
I want to tell everyone that you're right and you don't have to prove it to anybody. Like that's what somebody told me years ago. And I don't know if it's a New Yorker thing, but like fighting to be right, it's terrible. You're never going to make everybody believe you're right. So just know that you're already right and we're in the right room to say that. So it feels really
oh,
fun.
There you go. Thanks
appreciate
for the
that. That's
tie-in.
great. Thank you so much. Well,
Yeah.
that's it. I think we're all good. Celeste,
Yeah.
anything else?
I think this was great. And Shane, thank you so much. You are our first guest. And this was the I don't think we could have asked for anything or anybody better. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very much so. So now what we're going to do is we're going to clean this up because, of course, all of the ums and ahs that Jane does. But we'll clean it all
I'm
up.
not
We'll
worried
get it
about
down.
ums and ahs. I
Yeah, I think
really,
this is
I
amazing.
honestly, I don't know that I would have to really edit very much.
Yeah, this was
I would
amazing.
have liked you to give me a little bit more time before going, okay, we're done.
So,
But
okay, what do you want to
I'll
say?
find the ending there.
Okay. Yeah, see, all a learning process. I have to, and I'm going to tell you, you said about meeting somebody and working with someone to get you to move.
Yeah,
I've been trying to do this thing with the right room for
yeah.
almost 2 years now. And
Wow.
I don't even know how it happened, but I mentioned it to Celeste, what, about 6 months ago? Maybe 4 months
I think
ago?
so.
And she's like, well, I could work with you on that. And I'm like, really? And just
Just like
the whole, yeah, but you know what it was? The weight of it
that.
became less. This is like, oh, well, wait a minute. Now it's not just the me show. It's Celeste. What do you think? And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, I've been working with a partner in business or work, whatever, since I'm 18, 19 years old. So for me to be on my own has been very tough. But just what you said, having somebody, something, some touchstone that you can put in your life, in your business, whatever, it's so meaningful. And thank you so much for pointing that out to everybody.
Yeah, beautiful. I have in the back of my head, that if I don't know, I don't wanna but Celeste, if you wanna add on now.
I'm adding all of this on. It's okay.
No, but I don't know. I'm here for it. If you wanted to say more and then splice it at the end.
Go ahead. I'll
No,
shut
no,
up.
this all works. This is
Oh, okay,
we're
great.
not here
Okay.
to be perfect, really.
Okay, great, great. And I just wanna let you know, like, I'm okay. I have some time if you needed to I don't know, both of you wanted to add stuff on or I don't know,
No,
whatever.
it's just that I mean, I'm sure that it'll come to me like or it'll come to Celeste afterwards. But we'll listen, Shane, if you're willing, we'll be more than happy to have you on again.
Oh, yes.
To be on. So our plan with this is to not only just do these
Okay.
interviews, to do like a panel or a
I'm
mind
so open to
thing.
all of it.
So
Yeah,
that'd be
great,
good. That would be
great.
good.
That'd be great. Yeah, I just thought to myself, like, "Ooh, I could." And if you were open to guests, I mean, sure, you have a major amount, but like my doula woman, the Gen 3.0, she's
Yeah,
an amazing speaker and guest.
we're
I mean,
always open.
you are, but she shows up and like she could really do it well.
We're always open to guests. If you know of anybody that can use it, just shoot me an email. Shoot me their email, and I'll get reach out to them. Just if you want to do a soft intro, that'd be
Yeah.
perfect because we're always looking for anyone and anything that they cover. We love to have the conversation. That's all it is.
Great. And is your audience, I guess it's everybody, but it doesn't feel women focused. Is that true?
I
Or
don't think we really had have a focus other than we're trying to concentrate a little bit right now on business and entrepreneurship. I don't know where it's going to go. We don't know where it's going to go. So yeah, it could be a little bit of everything, a little bit of anything, and a little bit of nothing.
I love
Whatever,
that. That's so new.
you know?
Yeah, I have another interview and it's like divine feminine leadership and I'm like, I don't know, I'm trying to just be with people and like I've been in the women's world so long that it seems like a jump, but I think it's not. I think it's just a jump in my own head. It's not
Yeah,
really.
It
I
really
think
is because, yeah, when I started my speaking business, it was targeted for women,
Mm,
and yet I did not do one presentation where men weren't there for one reason or another. They wanted to come to support their wife or their girlfriend. One group came because it was for a woman's union, and the other men in the union wanted to be there to support them. They just and they showed up. And what was really interesting to me was having men come up to me and say, I realized that you were focusing this on the women, but I got so much out of it. I
amazing.
really felt that there were so many things that you were talking about, tools that you were given that I can use. And I said, well, I'm so glad to hear that. I mean, I said, I did it for women because I felt like men already knew how to do this. And they
Mm.
said, you would think so, right? So
Yeah.
then I realized, oh, you know something? I really have to understand that when we're all talking about inclusion and diversity, it is everybody. It is men, it is women, it is everything. And everybody, it doesn't matter if you're an electrician, or if you're an architect. Again, we are all dealing with the same misgivings, the
Yes.
same self-doubts, the same idea of, am I good enough? And I think that we all struggle with that in one form or another. And that's why, again, to have a community that says, yeah, listen, we're all like that. So get over yourself, because
Totally.
whatever it is you're trying to do, we got your back.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so interesting to hear like men. It's like there's different kinds. There's different kinds of women. Women are not just one women. Anyway, it's so yeah, it's just like a funny limitation that's so clear right now.
Yeah.
Let
And
me
so
tell
that
you something.
we've left it open ended. We just, yeah, it's the idea is we're going to look at different careers, different perspectives, different mindsets, just to have, hopefully, develop a compassion and empathy for each other. Because when you kind of get into the nitty gritty of what somebody goes through, because it's like, oh, that looks so glamorous. I'm like, yeah, let me tell you what's happening behind the scenes. And you go, well, that's a lot of work and that's a lot of pressure. And you have a different understanding now of what that person is doing and how they are presenting themselves, but you get the idea of all the work that they put into it for it to make it look easy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm reading this great book right now. It's called 100 Million Offers. Have you heard of it? It's like a workbook.
Oh,
I
okay.
heard of it the other day, believe it or not.
On
Really?
some TikTok, and they were just talking all about what you just said in such a friendly, cool way. Yeah, I just got into it last night, but, yeah, this feels so full, like, of potential of so many things, so I'm here to support it anyway, and if you want me to share it on Rockaway Creates, like, just let me know, I would love to.
This has been a great interview. Thank you, Shane, again for coming on. I believe we learned so much, and I'm looking forward to having you again. Well, thank you for coming to the right room. I'm Celeste Camps.
I'm Jane Parmel. Thank you, Shane. We'll see you again in the right room. Thank you. Bye bye, everybody.